All right, welcome everyone to Streamlining Workflow with Bill.com and other QuickBooks integrated applications. Now, depending on when you signed up for today's webinar, you might have signed up for a webinar entitled Bill.com and Workflow, Adopting It, Why It's Worth It, and then you might have done one or signed up for one that said Streamlining Workflow with QuickBooks integrated applications. There's a reason for that. Our good friends at Bill.com, though they have helped to bring this experience to you free of charge, and they are sponsors for today's webinar. They very graciously said, and in the interest of the audience said, let's tell a holistic story. This is bigger than just Bill.com. This is about automating and streamlining all of accounting workflows through a wide range of QuickBooks integrated applications. So that just shows you they're all out for the educational piece, and we appreciate our friends at Bill.com encouraging us to tell that more holistic story, which Leslie Jorgensen, CEO of Supporting Strategies, is very capable of doing. Leslie Jorgensen has developed what is, in my opinion, a nearly perfect, if not absolutely perfect, streamlined workflow system through extremely aggressive and innovative use of technologies, automation technologies, GL integrated technologies, collaborative solutions. It is such a perfected workflow stack and process that she's been able to scale that process through one of the nation's fastest growing, if not the fastest growing, bookkeeping franchise called Supporting Strategies. So in my opinion, nobody gets streamlined workflow in an accounting environment better than Leslie, and I'm really, really glad to have her with us today. Now, a couple things before we get started. Let's cover what our learning objectives are. We're going to talk about 5 ways Bill.com and QuickBooks, along with its whole ecosystem, power growth. We're going to talk about making outsourced accounting services viable. Now, Leslie, I'm not going to steal her thunder there, but just know that outsourced accounting services can be a nonprofit operation or a loss operation if not run correctly. But if it's viable, if it's created as a viable model through the right technologies and process, it can be highly profitable, sustainable, and scalable. Leslie's going to talk to you about that. Then streamlining accounting workflows with QuickBooks integrated automation technologies. I'm going to, after Leslie presents one case study in her practice around Bill.com, I'm going to have a conversation with her about the larger implications of QuickBooks integrated technology on the accounting, on the bookkeeping process. Now, for questions and answers, there will be a dedicated Q&A segment at the end, but don't wait till the end. We have experts from Bill.com prepared to answer questions related to Bill.com all the way through the webinar experience. Also, if you have a question for Leslie about accounting workflow or technology automation or the use of technology in workflow, you can ask that at any time throughout the webinar as well. As Leslie's presenting, I will be reading those questions. Those that I can confidently answer and feel like I'm representing her well, I will do so. For the others, I'll store those for my conversation time with Leslie. So interact with us throughout the experience, and you can do that in the questions pane of your GoToWebinar panel. Okay? Now, before we get started, I want to make sure everybody knows that the EPIC practice is at Scaling New Heights in Atlantis, May 22 through 25. The EPIC practice is more than just the theme of this year's conference for QuickBooks Pro Advisors. The EPIC practice is the goal that we will empower you to achieve by attending the conference. A lot of times you go to the shows, and it's great to go to them even if you're just sort of mapping out your own course. And certainly you can map your own course here too. But you're going to find that all of the courses, all the sessions, all the tracks, all of the experience is designed very intentionally to empower you to have an EPIC practice, a practice that we define as cloud-focused, innovation-driven, culture-rich, and highly effectual on behalf of your clients. So if you want that kind of practice, come to Atlantis, and we will get you there. We're fond of saying that Scaling New Heights turns pro advisors into super pro advisors, and there's a tremendous amount of testimony that will back that up. As a matter of fact, Over 1,000 certified pro advisors are attending this year, which will make it yet again the largest gathering of certified pro advisors in Intuit's history. Come be a part of history with us. All right, if you could let us know, just for the sake of planning a little bit, about Scaling New Heights 2016 in Atlantis, I am. I'm going to put a poll up. Now, even if you've answered this on previous webinars, just answer again. We dedupe, but this helps us to plan everything from the size of our room block expansions to how many biscuits we order at breakfast. So let us know what you plan to do. It would be very helpful to us as we plan this conference. Okay, we've got 80% participating. We're going to close the poll here in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Fantastic. All right. Now we're going to introduce Leslie Jorgensen. She's going to talk you through a case study, the impact of Bill.com, a form of automation technology, on workflow. So this is workflow before and after Bill.com. Leslie, welcome to the webinar. Tell us, how different can it be?
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for having me today. I'm really excited to talk about Bill.com and how it's really helped us at supporting strategies to supercharge our workflow. And what I wanted to do first was talk a little bit about what it was like when we wanted to offer accounts payable management services to our clients before there was actually a Bill.com to even offer to those clients and to use in our practice. And as you can see on this slide, it was pretty painful. We needed a way to get all the information. It was fairly antiquated, getting a lot of paper, putting a lot of things through our own scanning process, manually, keying in the information into QuickBooks. And then we literally had an Excel-based accounts payable approval report that we would generate manually, send it to the client. They needed to look at that, send it back to us. We set up the check run in QuickBooks. We had a whole gigantic cabinet of checks that would literally get printed out, queued up to go to the client so they could send them, and then the client would manually have to print those checks, put them in envelopes, get them mailed out. So it was a very, very clunky process. It got the job done, but it wasn't at all as innovative and sexy as we wanted it to be with, the rest of our systems that were working pretty well in a virtual environment. So in comes Bill.com. After this, very disorganized process of, having to do all this manual work, and it really saved the day. So if you want to go to the next slide, we can talk about the benefit of Bill.com, which in fact I found out sort of by accident. I was talking to another bookkeeping services firm that was using it, and I said, geez, I want to use that too, and it really overnight changed the way that we're able to offer this accounts payable service for our client, in that not only were they able to send their bills directly into the Bill.com inbox, which made it a lot more timely, and in fact the vendors could also send the bills there automatically, but then the client could do all of their approval workflow right online from wherever they were. We didn't have to kind of trade that spreadsheet back and forth anymore. We could do that all automatically, and we're also able to engage others within their companies to do a nice automated workflow around approving bills, which before was heavily paper-based as well. And then, of course, as I'm sure everyone is very well aware with Bill.com, the client is able to release the payments online and also give the benefit of the vendors getting e-payments, which is great. They could get direct deposits in a very nice streamlined way to also track the payments as they were in transit. So we went from having a service for our clients that was, got the job done, but was very clunky, manual, in nature, and very expensive for us to manage for them, and we were able to pretty much overnight, by implementing Bill.com, to make that be a very nice, seamless online workflow, very easy for us and very nice and easy for the clients as well. So for me, there's really just, people will say, well, what about the Bill.com fees? It's, this much per user and this much per transaction. Is it really worth it to set up a client on Bill.com, maybe if they don't have a lot of bills, or something of that nature. And what I say is there absolutely is value in it for every single client. And the reason why is because, again, back to the perception of the client that we're working with. Even if they just have a few bills to pay, by saying to them, we're going to turn you on to Bill.com and have a very nice, easy way for us to collaborate online to get your bills paid, and you can, by the way, pay your bills even if you're on vacation or out of the office, I think that's a really big value add. So it makes it very easy for us to be that virtual service provider for them, which, you know, is a big benefit for them to be able to outsource their accounting. They don't need that person sitting in their office anymore just to get the bills paid. We're able to do all that electronically for them, and for the client, they're able to get their business done wherever they are as well. So just even without just nickels and dimes, just thinking about the value, that more the intangible value to the client, that they're able to effectively run their business from everywhere and be able to leverage a experienced accounting professional that's virtual, more than pays for itself. But even that aside, there is savings as well, in addition to just sort of that it's a nice process. So one thing that's been really, really amazing now that we've integrated Bill.com basically throughout our entire client base is now some of the other technology providers that we've been starting to engage with and also put into our standardized workflow integrates with Bill.com as well. So now we're almost getting the Bill.com experience on steroids, if you will. So for us here at Supporting Strategies, we happen to use both HubDoc and Tally. And what's really amazing is that no matter who the client is, whether they have Tally in place for out-of-pocket reimbursement expenses, or they're using HubDoc to do automation of, you know, paper document flow, all of that is able to now connect in with Bill.com, so it's an even more automated, faster process for us and for the client, which we've really enjoyed. And I'm really looking forward to continue to see more and more as these different applications are able to talk to each other, because it just makes us better and better. So one thing people will ask me a lot is, well, how did you get your entire client base onto Bill.com? It can be hard to get the client to sign on for it. It's really tough to teach all of your team members how to set up Bill.com accounts and kind of get that engine running. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how we onboard Bill.com and how we're able to get this really spread out across our entire employee base, as well as across our, you know, our full client base as well. So one of the things that we do with Bill.com is we've sort of woven in some of the questions that you need to answer to onboard Bill.com into our standard client onboarding, you know, interview of sorts that we do. So we'll find out, you know, if they want to do an approval workflow, and if so, who are the people that would be involved? Do they have a director of marketing that needs to do the marketing bills, or, you know, does everything just need to go to the business owner to get paid? And then what we also need to find out who the payer is, and then are they also using some of the other dimensions of Bill.com? Do they need classes turned on, customers, items, that kind of thing. So we sort of get some of those details worked out. Just we sort of slide that in through our regular client onboarding interview. And then once we have that taken care of, you can go to the next slide. We're able to centralize the setup process. So what we have in our organization is we have a support team, and they do a lot of the setup of a lot of these technologies for everybody else on our team. So every single individual accountant, they don't need to know exactly how to spin up a new Bill.com from scratch, how to set up all the individual settings. They don't need to figure out how to set up the syncing. They don't need to do any of that stuff. We just have a few folks on our team that knows how to do that pretty much on an expert level. And then each one of the team members, if they need to set up a Bill.com account for their client, they're putting in that request to that specific team. And we found that to be really, really helpful, because we've seen with technologies where we didn't have it kind of centralized in terms of that setup process, it was a really big barrier for that accountant employee of ours to really want to set up a lot of these technologies because they sort of said, well, geez, I'm going to have to go up this learning curve, this steep learning curve, and figure out how I'm even going to set up this account and provision this account. So we've thought it was really successful to actually centralize that setup process. And you'll see on this slide, this is just a picture of, we use an internal tracking system called Zendesk, or it's like a kind of like a help desk type software. So you can see here that we've sort of filled out all the fields of, here's everything that our support desk needs to know if they need to set up an account. So that's been really successful for us. And then what we also do is we do a little bit of hand-holding with the client as well when we're onboarding them to Bill.com. So Bill.com does a really great job of reaching out to the client with an automated email, letting them know what their how to sign up for their credentials and that type of thing. But we go one step further where we actually send a Bill.com welcome email, which kind of lets them know, hey, you should have gotten an email from Bill.com. This is what you should do to sort of take the next step and get your bank account set up and that kind of a thing, which has been really good to also help with the adoption from the client's perspective. And then we also help when each new client joins Bill.com to make sure we facilitate the moving of all the vendor documents over to Bill.com. So we'll actually take the step to, get everything sent in directly to that Bill.com inbox, which is a great value for the client, because at the end of the day, the last thing they want to be doing is themselves or somebody in their office having to open up mail and deal with getting us whatever documents coming in for bill payment processing. So that's something that we do as well as we're getting them onto Bill.com. And then really, I would say the final kind of piece about, internally how to get everybody onto the Bill.com program is making sure that you're giving your team members training on Bill.com. So what we've done in the past is we've had all of our team members actually get Bill.com certified. And then in addition, we've created our own little mini training that's specific to how we use Bill.com at supporting strategies. So we have a few, very specialized things that we do just in terms of our processes. So we just have an hour-long webinar of sorts that we have our team members go through as well. So providing the team members with that ancillary training on Bill.com also makes them feel comfortable using a new tool that they haven't worked with before and really kind of getting behind it to working with it with their clients. And then I would say that the last, kind of thing that people ask me about in terms of, how do you get people to, or your clients to sign on to Bill.com, is really we don't ask them whether or not they want to use Bill.com. We just sell it as part of our service delivery engine. We basically say, if you want us to manage your accounts payable, which we're really expert at, we do that through an online workflow. We're going to be setting you up at the Bill.com account, and we're going to help you get, up and going, and from there, that's how your bills are going to be processed. And we found that we really haven't had any pushback from the clients given that way of selling it. And what we're doing is we're selling that through just bundling the Bill.com fees into our price as opposed to breaking it out separate. We have charged it as a separate line item in the past, and to be honest, that's actually been successful for us as well. We didn't really have a hard time selling Bill.com because what we would say is, let's just say it was an hourly based client billing them for people's hours, and then they were going to get this other charge. We would say, if our 1 hour of our time is X, Bill.com in that month is going to be less than that or equal to that. So as long as we save 1 hour of our time, Bill.com will pay for it, and that was also very successful. But at this point, we're on a subscription basis with our clients, and all of it is built into the fee, and it's been very successful for getting folks onto it. So that's sort of the story of us and Bill.com.
Yeah, and Leslie, that is a fantastic case study. And when you have a case study, you're not talking about just one practice in one local market. This is a case study that spans the country, dozens and dozens of thriving, highly automated bookkeeping practices. So if you can, a lot of times when people hear this kind of testimonial, they're like, well, I'm glad that worked for you, but I'm not convinced it'll work for everyone. But what you've proven is it's deployable. I mean, if somebody were to buy a Supporting Strategies franchise right now, they could just deploy your methodology wherever they are, Los Angeles all the way to Podunk, Kansas. They could just do whatever they want. Just fold it right in. And I'm sure that client by client, there are always different little micro processes, but the broad strokes are extremely repeatable and can be replicated powerfully. So I appreciate you sharing that. And we focused a lot, folks, on Bill.com as the basis of the case study. In just a minute, I'm going to turn the conversation to a broader look that will involve Bill.com and a wider range of technologies with Leslie. But before we turn there, I'd like to ask you guys some questions about Bill.com. And the first is not a question where you're going to give me information. It's a question is, do you want good information? Bill.com has put together an effective pricing strategies white paper. Now, they work with thousands and thousands of accounting firms all over the country, and through that reach, deep reach into the profession, they have done the research necessary to come up with an effective pricing strategies white paper, and they're making that available to anybody who attended today for free. All you have to do is say, yes, I want to receive it, or not interested at this time. Give me a yes or no. If you say yes, then Bill.com will email the white paper to you. So you'll go ahead and give me your yes or no. And you guys are really quick pollers today. Thank you. Sometimes I have to beg people to respond to these polls. I've got a couple of questions specific to Bill.com that I happen to know the answer to as well. So as I'm asking you about the next question, you're closing this poll now, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. You do have the ability to receive an in-depth product review of Bill.com. This is not a sales pitch, folks. This is just if you're intrigued and want to learn more, you can have some one-on-one education directly from Bill.com. And while you're saying, yes, I'd like to be able to take a look at that in-depth review, or I'm not interested, I'm going to answer a couple of these questions. One was related to Receipt Bank. Receipt Bank doesn't work with QuickBooks Desktop. I've heard a lot of people say that, but we're using a desktop kind of automation flow. It's a very different kind of integration. The Tally, the HubDoc, the Receipt Bank integration, it isn't that they talk to QuickBooks Desktop and Bill.com talks to QuickBooks Desktop, therefore they talk to each other. They have developed direct integrations with Bill.com. So even though Receipt Bank doesn't talk to QuickBooks Desktop, it will talk directly to Bill.com. So when the expense reports, for example, are generated there, or the reimbursable expenses have been cataloged in, or the payables need to get debited to the expense categories on the general ledger, Receipt Bank will tell Bill.com that, then Bill.com will tell QuickBooks Desktop that. So and the same with reimbursing employees for filed expense reports in Tally. It tells Bill.com, Bill.com puts the payable in QuickBooks Online or QuickBooks Desktop. So that does expand Receipt Bank's reach a bit, as long as you're using Bill.com and running everything through that. So hopefully that kind of clears up that mystery a bit. And then there was a lot of concern, before we get in the conversation with Leslie, about who's actually authorizing the disbursement of the funds. And Leslie, I'm going to let you take this one because you deal with it a lot. But I mean, you're not put in the hot seat of deciding what gets paid on each individual bill run, right? The client still has that power, correct?
Absolutely, and I actually failed to talk about that when I was sharing my case study. That is actually our favorite part of Bill.com, is that we don't need to be in that hot seat. And a lot of our clients before Bill.com would say, why don't you just use online banking? We don't want to just use online banking for many reasons. One of them is, basically in order to submit the disbursements, we'd have to hit pay. And we want to have that proper checks and balance with our client where we're not making those disbursements. So when we set up Bill.com, we make sure we are not the payer, the client's the payer, and that we're just kind of teeing everything up so they can be their own approvers and their own payers. And so that's actually been really great for us, and a really big selling point in terms of making sure that our clients are protected from theft.
There you go. Fantastic. And so they have an interface, and it can even be on their mobile device. So this is the best way I've envisioned it out, as being the sort of the most convenient scenario. You know, we've put all the bills in, or rather we kind of haven't, because some of that process is even automated, but the bills are in the system. Now they're in QuickBooks, and they're all teed up and ready to go. And we tell the client, we send a little reminder to the client on Thursday night, tomorrow's a disbursement day. We used to call it a check run day, but that's kind of old thinking. It's right. Disbursement day is tomorrow. So we need you to, and I need to know what you want to pay, right? And the cash position is they know their cash position. They're going into their mobile device, and they're clicking which bills they want to pay. I mean, they could be in bed at night, just having put down their book for a minute, grabbing their tablet and selecting where they're going to pay, and clicking OK, put their tablet down, and pick their book back up. Or maybe they read on their tablet. That'd be really 21st century. But the point is, it's so easy now for them to authorize which bills are going to get paid, which ones aren't. And you are never put accountant in the position of managing the client's cash position or cash flow. You can make recommendations, but only they authorize the payment of the vendors. And then that provides a check and balances, a separation of duties, so that you're not paying vendors, reconciling the bank accounts. That's a whole internal controls issue that Bill.com solves. Okay, so let's talk a little bit in a broader sense, Leslie. Keep asking your question, folks, about Bill.com or anything for Leslie. I'll peel off the ones for Leslie, and I'll route the ones for Bill.com. But Leslie, you've obviously created a system now that will scale, and it's broad in reach. We've talked a lot about payables. What are some of the other areas in the workflow process where technology has made a significant difference for your franchisees?
So I would say that really the biggest difference that it's made is it's taken a lot of the manual work, a lot of the drudgery over the data entry and things, and it's automated those pieces. And so now our staff members are able to work with their clients on some of the higher level pieces, some of the projects, some of those things that always get basically put to the bottom of the list because there's too many things to get done in any given day or any given week. And so we're able to offer our clients more value because we're able to automate some of the things that just frankly took up a lot of time.
And what technologies are you using to accomplish this besides Bill.com?
Well, we are now, pretty heavy down the path with QuickBooks Online, which, we had a lot of internal pushback on because our team was very, comfortable and happy with QuickBooks Enterprise, which we also still heavily use. But what I found with QuickBooks Online is it's so easy to connect applications to it. I mean, you go right into that app store, you buy what you need, it connects right in, and so we're using things like Transaction Pro Importer is a great little tool that we actually use a lot for, again, some of those things that were very spreadsheet heavy, or we had to do a lot of things where we were keying in multiple transactions, or in some cases just having to journal entry things in because it was too much work to get the individual transactions into QuickBooks. So that's been a really great tool, works great with QuickBooks Online.
All right, I'm going to let you drill down on that for a second. In a world of bank feeds, which I can only assume you're using bank feeds, that's probably one of your anchor automation.
Oh yeah, sure, that goes without saying.
Exactly. So in a world of bank feeds, why do I need Transaction Pro Importer? Can you give me some examples?
Sure. So with some of the actually revenue sources, so a lot of our clients might have, their own kind of industry-specific POS system or something along that line where they're getting sales data that's, detailed down to the transaction level. We want to get that into the revenue, and then we want to likely offset that to cash or some credit card receivable account or something like that. What we used to do is we used to just sort of summarize the information and just put in a key in a journal entry. But now we're able to say, okay, you had 20,000 sales transactions. We know exactly what they're for. Let's just, in a click of a button, just suck them right into QuickBooks.
Okay, so that's a great example. You're absolutely right. Any kind of disparate technology that's not a bank, most of the banks are now covered, but yeah, you've got technology that you're exporting data out of. I would think medical systems could be another example, perhaps. Sometimes that's captured in summary data, but in any kind of a front-end solution, sometimes maybe even inventory control systems if they're not integrated.
Payroll, if you can't get the payroll in a good import-export,
well,
you can
that's a
get
good one too. That's a good one too. Now, obviously, I'm sure you steer your clients toward the most tightly integrated solutions, but if for some reason they can't use assisted payroll or Intuit full service payroll, or they're just locked in by contract, then that's a great way to get them in as well. So in one of the, I guess, black boxes of automation, or the dark alleys of automation, is receivables. That's a tough one because receivables are highly unique to the workflow of each individual client. They're very closely tied to the small business's interaction with their own customers that we don't want to get in the middle of. Do you have any suggestions for how we can streamline the accounting around receivables when we can't be as directly connected to that as we can payables?
Sure, and I'll actually circle right back and talk again about Bill.com. I focused my case study more along the lines of the payable side, which we've been using for years at this point. We've more recently gotten into their receivables module, which we find really easy to use, connects obviously with QuickBooks, but provides the client that's already using Bill.com for payables sort of a user-friendly interface if they want to go in and do their own billing. And what we really love about Bill.com on the AR side is just the many different payment methods that we can then offer to the client for them to get paid by their customers. So, automated ACH, credit card processing, everything is baked right in there. Great reporting to see where the money's coming in. It sort of all kind of flows in automatically and then, again, syncs back to QuickBooks. So we've actually found that to be a really, really good system for us, in addition to just using the baked-in AR module in QuickBooks.
And what I would say then is I'd put that in a category called collaboration, because there's automation. These are just joke-contrived categories, but there's automation, there's entry, and there's collaboration. So the client is doing a lot of this work, but you have visibility. And when it's time for the baton handoff, when it no longer becomes a customer engaging transaction, it becomes a purely financial transaction. I need to receive the payment, put it in the bank, and reconcile it. It's easy for you just to seamlessly take over.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. All right. Fantastic. Now we've got a question here about bundling versus not bundling in the software to the fee that you charge. And David's saying, we tend to find our pricing works best if the client pays for the software and they pay us for the service. That's not the way you roll. So can you talk a little bit about the pros and cons?
I can. Just from my own experience, as I mentioned, we really had no problem selling Bill.com. It just wasn't a problem. We were just kind of doing on a standalone, just charge it whatever it was each month to our clients. We didn't have an issue, but when we wanted to introduce additional pieces of technology, like as an example, Tally, or even a Transaction Pro or something like that, and we go to the client and say, all right, well, we can automate your expense reporting, but Tally's going to be this much base plus user plus this, that, and the other thing. They'd say, well, expense reporting isn't that big of a deal. We'll just not do that. And they really needed to use Tally because it made it, again, the collaboration piece, the automation piece, it sort of has all those, it has all those checked off. And it made everyone's life easier, their employees, themselves, and us. And they were just kind of not doing it for some nominal, less than a cost of going out to dinner per month. They weren't doing Tally, right? So we said, you know what, it's easy enough to bundle it in. And now when we talk about expense reporting, it's just like Bill.com. We say, this is how we do expense reporting. All your employees will be able to do it right from their smartphone. They can easily get their expenses in. It's hassle-free, and it goes back to the experience of the client. They're getting a better experience. But when we put the hurdle in front of them of this nominal kind of charge, it was standing in the way of them adopting it. So that's what we saw. Not with all technology, but after we got past the first one or two things, they were starting to say no to stuff, and we didn't want them to say no to stuff.
Yeah, you didn't want them to, and I want to drill down on the you didn't want them to piece, because there's sort of a mantra in highly profitable and highly efficient workflow. There's a direct correlation between efficiency and unwavering process. In other words, any kind of variation in process kills efficiency. So at Supporting Strategies, you have taken that process, defined it out, and I heard you say we don't give them a choice. So are you saying, Leslie, you actually tell a client, we won't take your business unless you choose the solutions that are in our technology workflow, and if it's ever no, where are the exceptions?
I wouldn't say we won't take their business if they won't do it, but we'll say to them that their fee is going to be higher if they don't do things using the way that we're describing. And I believe that most of the time when we provide them with the picture of what it's going to be like to work with us with the technology stack that we're putting in front of them, they're excited about it because they're not seeing all the little individual price tags. We're saying we're going to do it for X, and we're going to give you online visibility to your expenses, to your bills. Everything's going to be in QBO. Your CPA can get in at the end of the year. They're thrilled because they know the pain of as an example back to Tally, they know the pain of the old way. Really, the only reason they were saying no is they didn't want another little dinky charge.
Yep. Yeah, and then when they realize that what they're going to pay you for the accounting, the price you're charging for accounting services is actually going to cost them more than if they just adopt the technology. So it's a little bit of a stick/carrot, maybe a carrot that you're beating them with like a stick.
Right.
Yeah, you're nudging them where they need to go anyway. And you're right. I mean, the carrot part of it is look what you get. Look at the portal. Look at the visibility. Look at the collaboration. You can see at any time what's happening with any of your systems, and you just lose that, even if you were willing to pay the extra money. Now, a lot of people have been asking. We've been mentioning Tally a lot. We've been mentioning Receipt Bank and HubDoc. I want us to kind of do a little inventory of solutions, but we've already mentioned 4. So very quickly, I want to just describe what these things are. Transaction Pro Importer takes Excel spreadsheets, allows you to configure them in very sophisticated ways, allows you to memorize those configurations if you have the same spreadsheet format over and over again, and import that data into QuickBooks. And with a single import, you could create 5, 10, 15, or 100 or more transactions in QuickBooks Desktop or QuickBooks Online. So anytime a client sends you transactional data in Excel, or if you can get the transactional data into Excel, then Transaction Pro Importer becomes a form of automation technology. I'm going to let you talk about HubDoc in just a second, Leslie. You're much more on feet on the street with that. But Receipt Bank allows you to copy receipts, and it will parse the data, read the data off the receipts, know what kind of documents you've scanned, and make suggestions or automate the process of putting that data into your accounting system. Tally does the same thing, except Tally, Receipt Bank will do it with a scanner or a phone, and Tally will do it only with a phone. Actually, I believe it does read some email attachments now. The big difference between Tally and Receipt Bank, they'll both read that piece of paper, digitize it, automatically know what data points are on there, and put it on, almost like magic, put it into QuickBooks. But Tally runs it through a multi-level expense reporting authorization process. So for larger businesses that have reporting structures and expense reporting authorization tiers, Tally is going to be a really good choice for you. Now, how are you using HubDoc, and what made you land on HubDoc?
So HubDoc is pretty much like Receipt Bank, except it also has a fetching feature where for banks, credit cards, some payroll providers, some major vendors, you can actually hook up your accounts with your HubDoc account. It'll automatically go out each day, see if there's new documents available, and bring them in. So as an example, one of our favorite parts of HubDoc is that we spend a lot of time just going and pulling bank statements to do a month-end reconciliation, or a credit card statement to do the same thing. Our team members don't have to do that anymore. With HubDoc, they're just there. So when it's time to do your reconciliation, you just go into HubDoc, you click on the bank account folder, it's in the last statements just sitting right in front of you in a nice PDF, version or just a digital version that you're able to use. So it makes it very easy in terms of just getting the documents. No one has to go get them. The computer goes and gets them. But otherwise, it's similar to Receipt Bank in that it's OCRing receipts and bills. You're able to publish them directly or post them directly to either QBO or if it's a bill to bill.com. It's just a really good way for us to share documents. So one thing that we've done in supporting strategies, and I'm sure a lot of other practices have a similar function, is we still get some amount of paper from our clients into our office, and we have folks that do scanning, and we used to have to do all this, naming of documents and routing them around because they were sort of stupid documents. They were just PDF files, right? What were they for? We had to kind of know what they were. With HubDoc, we're able to just drag and drop things right into that repository. So we're sitting here in Massachusetts. We can have a team member sitting out in Los Angeles, and they go into HubDoc, and we could have just dragged and dropped, 50 different documents into that HubDoc folder, and then they can start working on those documents. So it's just also another way, back to your collaboration point, Joe. It's an easy way for different types of documents all to get in one place, and for multiple people to be able to work with them as they need to.
And then once they're in that place, you can still run them through other automation technologies. I mean, you could use HubDoc in combination with Receipt Bank, and as we saw, either one of those feeding into Bill.com with proprietary integration. But and I've found HubDoc's greatest in Smart Vault, exactly. So HubDoc's greatest strength is just getting the document to you, like you said, collaboration, and then you begin to decide from there what you're going to do with it. This will really be a reference a lot of folks over, say, 35 or maybe 40 will get. Anybody under that, you just have to go Google it. But I call HubDoc the ultimate vacuum tube, right? It just gets the document to you. Now, for you millennials with us, go Google vacuum tube. It'll make a lot of sense. So let's talk a little bit about well, first, do you have any more technologies that you enjoy on the input side? And then I want to talk a little bit about outputs and reporting.
No, those are kind of the main ones that we're using. I think we hit them.
All right. So what about outputs? I mean, I know you're a big believer in this idea of value pricing and ascribing value. So it's not just that I get your bank rec done to the penny, which you say we should do. We all say we should do that, right? Preaching to the choir in this audience. But what do we do once we have super accurate financials? So what are your preferred technologies for reporting and sharing reports with clients?
So this is really where we're kind of at the infancy of getting this kind of part of our workflow more automated. And, we spend a lot of time really perfecting the Bill.com stuff and just sort of the feeds and all that kind of thing. And we're pretty much there now. So what we're starting to do is, number one, just to leverage in QBO. They've got that nice management reporting capability that we really like. I mean, it's easy. You can set up your memorized reports, and you can create actually a pretty professional looking package for your client right from there. And once you build it the way you like it, every month it's just going to be waiting there for you. So, and you can have narrative in there and that kind of thing. So I think just bare bones right in QBO, we're using that. We have not yet adopted, but we are looking into, and we are very excited about Fathom, which is, partnering with QBO, and I've seen demos of it. We haven't started to use it yet, but whether it's Fathom or something like Fathom, that's where we're going next, is something that will allow our clients to get really useful analytics out of the accounting system. So that's sort of, a little bit TBD, but next.
Well, maybe what we can do then is have you back on in a little bit when you've made a good choice, because if people are smart, and I'm not just blowing smoke here, you know how I feel about you. If people are smart, they need to be watching you, and they need to be watching the decisions that you make. So if you would, what you kind of land on something firm or a couple of really good solutions that you like, I'd love for you to come back on. We can maybe do a whole webinar on data interpretation, data application analytics, and maybe some light management consulting. That'd be fun.
Yeah, it sounds like fun.
Yep, absolutely. So I've got a couple questions here that I think are really good. What is the average client you work with? You've talked about a lot of process here, technology, onboarding. You've got a fairly complex billing model. I know you've streamlined, but there are a lot of moving pieces, and you're managing accounts on behalf of a lot of people. Is there a client too small?
That's a great question, and part of the flexibility that our franchise locations have is they can make that decision. And I think, the newer ones, they're sort of just interested in getting their feet wet and getting some experience. So I think they're sort of taking clients of any size. Our more mature offices are sort of cutting it off, and I would say about level of effort, maybe a day to 2 days a month kind of a thing is sort of our smallest engagement. I think one of the things that we're learning is it's okay if they're smaller, but if they're smaller, then you really need to be clear when you're setting up the scope of services with the client that they understand what we're able to provide, for them in that footprint. So, how often are we able to check in with them? How much can we communicate with them on a daily basis? I mean, you sort of a little bit get what you pay for. So I think what we're finding is the level of services is both just the entity and what they need to get done accounting-wise, but it's also how much interaction, how much touch, how much, relationship management can they expect. So I think with the smaller ones, that's sort of the big thing you got to watch.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think if I could add to that we need to very carefully define not just the scope, because you talked a lot there about scope, but also the nature. And am I just the overhead offset for you so you don't have to have a bookkeeper who's going to be busy just part of the time, and they're going to be, wringing their thumbs and so forth, trying to find work and just basically being bored for the rest of it. So it's definitely more economical, to outsource that to me if you're under 40 hours. But you're really just shifting overhead from A to B with a high level of confidence that it's going to get done right. And that confidence means I can have a margin, I can bill in a way that I can pay my bills, provide for my family, and so forth. But that's if the nature is shift the bookkeeping from your office to my office.
Right.
The holy grail is that the bookkeeping isn't ultimately what we're selling, and I know that you're a big proponent of this. What we're selling is, by engaging with my firm, I'm going to increase your wealth. And Ron Baker defines wealth not just as I'm going to make you more money, but I'm going to provide you with a greater level of confidence, scalability, security, peace of mind, work-life harmony. I'm even going to have some positive impact on your business's culture, its direction. Through analytics, I'm going to give you more confidence about where you're headed, not just where you are. And if we're looking at it from that angle, it might be a small business. It might be a mom and pop. It might be doing $200,000, $300,000 in sales, but they might be paying disproportionately more than they would pay for bookkeeping. I'm using air quotes here, because they've connected their investment in you to the fact that you're going to get them from $250 a year to $500 a year, and you're going to give them the roadmap to make that happen.
Correct.
And help them mitigate other unforeseen costs or penalty costs, like sales tax interest and penalties, and payroll tax interest and penalties, or being hit with payroll tax and penalties because you had a contractor that you thought was a contractor, but they turned out to be an employee. So by watching their back like that, we're going to save them so much money and help them make more money. And so I would encourage everybody in the audience to say, and I love how you put it. You put it by scope of work, not size of business, right? Maybe no client is too small, but maybe there are certain engagements that by nature are too small. If the client's too narrow in their thinking, well, then maybe you need to save your resources for a client that wants to benefit from the increased wealth you can provide. Does that make sense, Leslie?
No, it does, and I think that resource allocation is actually pretty important. So, we always think of our team members before we think about our clients. We want to make sure that they're happy and excited about what they're doing. And so I think that client fit is actually really important, because we want them to be totally jazzed and excited, because that's what's going to make the clients ultimately getting the service that they need. So you're going to be kind of thinking about that.
That's an exciting third one that, quite frankly, I have never included that bullet anywhere before, and I'm going to start putting it in now. And I might give you credit. All right, so the idea is, so you talked about scope, I talked about nature, and then we've got this third bullet that's culture. You know, the wrong client can change the culture inside your firm. There is no brick wall in terms of cultural influence between our clients and what happens inside of our firm. It's a fluid, it's flowing, and all it takes is one wrong client, and they can drag the morale of an entire practice down. So, yeah, that's another big factor. Not big, small, but right fit. Love it. Love it. Okay, what about clients that are afraid of the security and privacy issues? And there's a lot of stuff in the news right now about this iPhone business, you know, and the FBI, you know, it's a slippery slope. And whether you agree or disagree that they should be able to crack this one iPhone open, that seems very harmless. It's a slippery slope now to how that could set a precedent to everybody from the government to maybe a hacker once it kind of leaks how you can hack into certain devices because the government doesn't know how to keep secrets well. Then all of a sudden we're all at risk. So first, do your clients still raise concerns about security and privacy in the cloud, and how do you address the concerns?
You know, I have to be honest, they don't typically express concerns about being in the cloud. I mean, at this point, I think most of our clients are using some cloud tools for, you know, it might not be for their accounting necessarily, but for a large, you know, part of their business. I think the selling point of it is obviously that whatever they're doing otherwise, it's going to be less secure. If they've got that bookkeeper in the office that's got a bunch of paper on her desk with numbers all over it, and she goes out to lunch, that's, you know, in some ways more risky than having the information kind of in the cloud where it's, you know, password protected, it's getting closed down, it's getting timed out. So I think there's a lot of benefits to it, and that's sort of how we sell it, that in a lot of ways the data is safer in the cloud than it is using it, you know, using your own network or what have you. And that's sort of a big thing that we play up as well, is that each one of our team members, they're doing 100% of their work in the cloud. Smart Vault, for you know, any documents we create, any reports we create, all of that, you know, based on our policy, the procedures, that all has to be in the cloud. So, you know, nothing's saved locally. So I think that we're able to play that up, and our clients are pretty happy with that.
Yep, and I agree with you. I'm getting fewer and fewer of those kinds of concerns being raised as well. And I'll tell you, I've got a couple of ones that work really well for me. One's an analogy and one's a reality. You know, I tell people every time a plane falls out of the sky, even if it's a little single passenger plane with one pilot, you know, and they don't even die, right? All it has to do is fall out of the sky a little too fast and it makes the national news. But there are between 250 and 500 automobile accidents in the city of Atlanta alone every day, and not one of them makes the news. So, you know, it's a matter of perception. Is it more dangerous to fly or to drive? Everybody knows the statistics is more dangerous to drive. But because of the prominence of the news, we think about dying on a plane more than we think about it in a car. And it's the same thing, and it's very analogous, and also, you know, a little bit relative because you've got the cloud, you've got the ground, right? Is the desktop or the cloud safer? Every time there's a hacker of data in the cloud space, it makes the news, but data gets hacked or stolen, even entire hard drives get stolen. The hardware can walk out the door too when it's stored in your desktop, and none of those make the news. Right, so that's the analogy, the comparison. Now there's the reality. The reality is, if you have a bank account, if you have your money anywhere in the world other than your mattress, you are already in the cloud. Even if but you might say, I don't use online banking. I wouldn't even let them create a profile for me. Doesn't matter. Any bank you have anywhere in the world has still placed all that financial information in their cloud systems. If you ever shop at Target, you're in the cloud. Right? It doesn't matter if you use Netflix, you're in the cloud. Somewhere, somehow, your financial information is already stored there. So if you're already there, in for a penny, in for a pound, you might as well just play in the new world, right? So Leslie, I'll tell you, you know, I could talk for another hour with you, but I think we've done a really good job here laying out your strategy, a case study around payables, and the way that you have, you know, fully validated this model of technology and innovation-driven accounting. It's been really good to have you with us.
Well, thank you. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
Yep. I've got a couple more questions I want to ask everybody before we head out. There is a free webinar series called QB Talk, and QB Talk, all you have to do in order to participate in it is subscribe to it. If you've already subscribed, you can just go ahead and ignore the slide. If you haven't, go to www.woodard.com/broadcasts. That's woodard.com/broadcasts, and on that page you can not only sign up or subscribe to the QuickBooks, I'm going here just with you, to the QB Talks webinar series, but you can also learn about upcoming webinars that are offered by Insightful Accountant, and I want to tell you about the very exciting Tech Makeover reality TV show for the Pro Advisor community that we've created. It is a tech makeover show about Patricia Hendricks, who you can see here peeking into a very disorganized office, and how she's going to address that during the show. Episode 1 is available now. Episodes 2 through 10 are going to be available throughout tax season. We're considering this your tax season up Periscope stress reliever whenever you're munching that 10-minute sandwich at your desk. Each episode lasts about 10 minutes. So we'd really encourage you to go watch those. And I've got really good news for you folks. Our friends at Bill.com tell us if anybody didn't have an appointment booked for 2 o'clock Eastern in just a minute here, we're going to leave the environment running, and if you want to get a demo of Bill.com, you can do so right now. Just stick around. The last question I'm going to ask you is, do you want to subscribe to the free Insightful Accountant newsletter? Now, we don't sell your email address, and we don't send you an email for any other reason except to tell you about the technology-centric articles that are available at insightfulaccountant.com. So just tell us yes, no, and it looks like almost 80% of you have already subscribed. So we appreciate your support of that technology-centric site. We're going to close that last poll here in just about 5 seconds. I want to thank Leslie again for being with us today. We really appreciate her involvement in today's webinar. And this concludes Streamlining Workflow with Bill.com and other QuickBooks integrated solutions. If you can stay around for the Bill.com bonus demo, please do so. If you're tuning out now, thanks so much for attending. We hope to see you at our March Insightful Accountant and Woodard webinar. Have a nice day. Okay, for those of you that are staying around for the bonus Bill.com webinar, I'm going to now pass control over to whoever is performing that demo. Is that, so
it's Elizabeth.
All right, fantastic. So I'm going to make you the presenter now. If you'll just show your screen,
Okay.
you can take it away.
Okay. Okay. Does everyone see my screen now?
Yes, we can see your screen. Take it away.
All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Bill.com and do a normal workflow process to show you how you can do a step-by-step process on how to pay a bill. So I'm going to go ahead and log on in to my Bill.com test account. Okay. So right now, when you log into your test account, you're going to see a dashboard, and there's very helpful areas here that I wanted to point out. The first is your to-do list. So any action items that you need to do for that day will be here on the left-hand side under the to-do list. We also have a system message, which you might want to check. It lets you notify of what's going on with Bill.com, such as if we're having a closed support center as we are this Friday, or any kind of notices that we would want to share with you. Another area that is helpful are your quick links tabs. So if you're at loss, this is actually a helpful area. So here you can actually enter bills with or without documents, and it'll take you to the area to do so. Also, if you wanted to connect with your vendors to pay them via e-payment, you can do that as well.
Another area is here is upload your bills, and this is where you can upload your invoices as well as email it to your bill.com address to go into your inbox in bill.com. And I'm going to show you how this will work. So right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm ready to drag and drop or upload my bills to bill.com. So I'm going to go ahead and choose my file. And I have a few invoices here that I want to upload. So the first one is this invoice here. I'm going to go ahead and upload that by selecting the file and clicking on open. And then you can click upload. You can also drag and drop as well. Another option is if you like to email, like let's say forward an invoice to your email, you can do that too. So what I can do is I can go to my email and then compose an email to my bill.com email address and then attach any invoices. You could have more than one. And then send it directly into your bill.com inbox. So I'm going to go ahead and send that. So it's going to be both ending up here on Inbox tab under Received. Right now we have one, and it's waiting for the other because it was emailed. So now we have one that's pending. So as I mentioned earlier, the best area to look at is your to-do list. So right now it has that one document I uploaded earlier, and you're going to click on Process One Document in Inbox. Right now, the workflow I have is someone will be coding the bills, someone will be approving the bill, and then someone will be scheduling out the payments and paying the bills. So as the first person, I'm the coder of the bill. So I am a clerk role or any role that has ability to code a bill. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new bill. And here, I can actually move this window around so that I can view my invoice better as well as code appropriately here. So, and now this vendor is Elle's Awesome Store, and this is derived from your QuickBooks sync. So all your vendors in your vendor list will show up. So if I type in Elle's Awesome Store, I can link that, and then I can type in the invoice number. And then mine is net 15, so I can check this to net 15, and it'll fill out everything automatically for me if I do the payment terms. I also have a balance of $1. And if you're using certain accounts or departments to code, you can definitely turn that as a accounting preference, and you can code to those accounts or departments. But since I'm not doing that, I'm not going to fill this area out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select an approver. So I'm going to ask approver Elsvet to approve this bill. Okay, and then I press save, and that's coded the bill. Now my other document came in that was emailed at that email address at bill.com, which is elsvet@bill.com. Of course, you can designate your own. Any emails, you can give this to your vendors or you can forward emails to that, will go directly into your inbox in bill.com. So this is very nice to give to your vendors. And what will happen is it'll show up here and you can code it accordingly. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new bill. This document is actually multiple pages, and bill.com does give you an opportunity to code per page. So I'm going to do that right now. This one is Toy Store Company. I don't have that client, so I can definitely add it here since it wasn't in my records here, Toy Store Company. And this will take this information into your QuickBooks. So I'm going to go ahead and save. On your next sync, it'll make a new vendor called Toy Store Company in your QuickBooks account. I'm going to go ahead and code the invoice here. And then the payment terms, net 15 again, and it automatically populates that information. And then $1. Lots of my bills are $1. And then now I'm going to have approver Elsvet approve this document. And here's the difference. When you have multiple pages with different companies, so for example, some of our clients would scan all their invoices in one lump sum, and they'll code per page. So with that being said, that's what's going on with this document that I have. So instead of clicking on including all remaining pages, which will make this one bill, I'm not going to click on that. So I'm going to go ahead and press save, and it'll code for that one page. Now it's moving me to the second page, which I can code a new bill, and it doesn't have to be the same vendor. So now I'm going to go ahead, and this is for Studio Design, and the invoice number is 1231N, and the payment terms is due upon receipt. And this is optional. You can manually enter the due dates as well, invoice dates and due dates, and it's $1.50. And then this bill description are your notes and memo line. So for this one, I'm going to go and say photos. And if you wanted to add a note to your payers or approvers, such as, you know, a notation of why we have this bill or something that will help them to understand the bill, you can certainly write it here. Once again, these are coding for your accounting preferences. And finally, I can add an approver. So I'm going to go ahead and ask approver Elsbeth, who's approving all my bills for me, and then press save. Now I'm done. That's all I have to do as a person that's coding the bills. So now I'm going to be signing out, and then the approver will be logging back in. This could be a whole new other person. Some of our clients use their, you know, the accounting company would be the person that codes and then ask their client company to be the approver, or it could be whomever you designate it to be. So this is a whole new person. Okay, I'm signing in as an approver. So now, if you look on the left-hand side, I have 3 bills to approve. So I'm going to go ahead and approve those 3 bills. What you can do is review each bill one by checking on this check mark, and it'll open up the bill one by one. However, when there's a lot of bills, I actually prefer the slideshow approval, which takes you to a slideshow. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and I can look at these bills. And let's say I just want to go ahead and approve this one. This one looks good. Approve. Okay, and this one, I'm going to go ahead and approve this one as well. This looks good as well. And then this one, I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to change my mind on this one. I said, I want to pay them $1 instead. And then I can press deny. If you're denying a bill, you will need to write a note or message. So I'm going to go ahead and deny this bill. All right, so as an approver, I'm already done. That's all I have to do. So now I'm going to sign out. And the person that originally coded the bill or any other person that has payer ability will log back in. So this is another person or the same person as the one before. Sign in. And now I have information that I need to take care of. So I had 2 bills that were approved and they're ready to be paid, but I also have that one bill that was denied. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that bill because I want it to be paid. So I'm going to go ahead and click on fix the bill, and then I'll click on the invoice number. And it'll tell you exactly what you need to do on this window here. What you would do is first, you just click on the edit button to make the changes, and then you reassign to reroute for approval. So I'm going to go ahead, or you can delete the bill, of course, but I'm going to go ahead and just make the edit like as they requested. So now I'm going to go ahead and do $1. Well, it was originally $1, or maybe they mistaken it. So I'm going to go ahead and press save. And now the second route is to reassign to reroute for approval. So now you would just do the second instruction here and reassign. And you would select a user. And I'm going to go back to approver Elsbeth to approve that bill. Okay. And then that's it. I fixed that bill that was denied, and it's ready to be approved. However, I do have those 2 bills that I need to take care of that was approved. So on my to-do list, it's here. You can also go to payables and go under pay. But since it's here, I'm going to go ahead and click on here. What I'm going to do is pay these bills. So it will tell you all of the approval status that's been approved. So those are all the bills that have been approved by the approver. And then also what I wanted you to pay attention to is the process date and the arrival date. So they try to get as close to the due date here, but for instance, this one, the account will be debited on 3/8 and the funds will arrive e-payment by 3/11. So I want it to be a little bit earlier, actually. So I'm going to go ahead and change my process date to the 1st of March. And if you notice, the arrival date will be sooner as well. So that's a way to control it. So this is the date that it's processed. This is the date when they actually receive the funds. So if you're really strict about the due date, you definitely pay attention to this line here. So I'm going to go ahead and pay this one bill. And you would select the account that you're paying from. So any account that you set up with Bill.com as a payables account. And I'm going to go ahead and choose my First Republic account and pay the bill. Okay. Now I can return to pay bills because I do have one more item that is outstanding. And here, what I wanted to do was this person actually came in and asked to be charged or asked to be paid by a credit card. So I didn't really use Bill.com to pay the bill. So I'm going to go ahead and select this. And then I'm going to click Mark as Paid. This lets us know that you paid it outside Bill.com, and this information will sync from Bill.com to your QuickBooks platform to show how it's paid. So I'm going to go ahead and click Mark as Paid. I'm going to click the GL bank account, so it's my credit card bank account GL, and a reference number. And then I'm going to go ahead and press Save. Okay, so now that's paid. Now what I can do is if I want to research my payments, I would go under Payables and click on Payments. And it'll show you all of the scheduled payments. You can also audit this. So if you click on the payment confirmation, you can cancel the payment if it's still scheduled. Or you can go to Details and click on Audit Trail, and it'll show you the audits. Okay, and then if you click on the invoice, you can take a look at it again too here. And there's bill details here, and you can also audit as well here. And this one has more details on the actual what happened on this bill. There you go. I'm going to go back to Payables and click on Payments. And there's also uncashed checks, so any checks that have not been cashed will be here. Any returned items will be here, and any failed e-payments will be here. And there's also instructions on what happens if an e-payment should fail, and you wanted some questions regarding that e-payment fail. But that's about it. That's how an payables workflow looks like. Okay.
Fantastic. Do you have Elspeth, do you have like 5 minutes to answer a couple of questions?
Sure.
I want to be respectful of your time. And for those of you who are typing in questions, if we don't get to your question, what we will do in a follow-up is once we shut this down, I'll pull the question list, and I will forward the questions over to Bill.com, and they'll reach out to you specifically if you have specific questions. If after seeing this demo, if you would like to make sure that you get followed up on and you did not say so in the polling questions, put that into your questions pane as well. Just say, yes, contact me for demo. If you already answered a polling question saying, yes, contact me, then you need to do nothing further. If you've changed your mind now that you've seen it, put that in the question box, and again, that information will be passed over to Bill.com as well to follow up with you. So let me get through these. We're going to try to get through as many as we can in 5 minutes, and then we'll just have to shut down. But all right, can we use this with our Canadian vendors?
It depends. So with your Canadian vendors have a U.S. address, you can. Also, their bank account information has to be a U.S. bank account information. But in general, we don't do international payments.
Okay. Does Bill.com sync with QuickBooks Desktop POS?
QuickBooks, that one. I know we sync with QuickBooks Pro and Premier, QuickBooks for Desktop, and QuickBooks Online. I am not certain about what is that point of sale machine?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. That we do not sync with unless it's already in your accounting software, your QuickBooks Online software.
Okay.
Okay.
And then this next one here is, will the payment terms populate from QuickBooks data, or do you have to enter it in Bill.com every time?
Once you type it in Bill.com, we save the data, but we do not sync that information. So for the example, the payment terms, we have a default of, I think, net 15, net 30, and then you can add new ones. And once you add the new ones, it will populate there. And also, once you start coding your bills, like let's say specific vendors have a net 10 or net 20 or whatever you're using, we have something called smart data. So every time after your first entry, it'll remember what that vendor's net term is. I hope that answered the question.
I think so, and I'm going to ask this next question, but I think you just answered it, but I'm going to ask it to see if I may have missed part of your answer, and that is, are there rules and intelligence built into Bill.com as with HubDoc and Receipt Bank, where Bill.com learns over time what recurring bills vendors should be coded to, or does a human have to type in every time? Now, I'm not sure if that's specifically asking coded to on the net, or I'm not sure what Linda was asking specifically on that one.
Okay, with that, if it's a vendor or vendor, it'll remember what you've typed in, so you progressively type less each time you code. So for example, when I was coding my bills, when I brought up a specific vendor, it remembered information already for me. So for example, like the payment terms, any kind of mapping towards, like let's say if you have I forget the terms here, departments or classes, it'll start remembering what you've coded based on the last transaction.
Okay, super. Then let's see here. Do you need a different login for each client?
Yes. For each client, you will, actually, it's not a different login. So it really depends on, for example, on our accountants, what will happen is if you have one email address and you sign up multiple companies under that one email address, you can log on to one email address. So we're email address driven. So for example, if you look at my screen, I have 3 companies with me right now. So each client will have to have their own Bill.com account, but as long as you use the same email address as your logon credential, they'll all populate under one login. So you don't have to remember too many passwords or usernames.
Okay, super. Let's see here. How are bills direct inventory handled using Bill.com so that the PO to bill to add to inventory to pay? Does that make sense?
No, it does not. I apologize.
Okay. All right, Carol, we will have someone contact you on that one, Carol. Let's see here. Never mind, question answer. Can I import bills with inventory items?
You can import bills with the inventory items. That I have to double check. Let's see here.
Okay.
It depends on the system too. So let's say you have QuickBooks for desktop. If you have existing open bills from in your QuickBooks desktop, we don't migrate that over to Bill.com. So what you would have to do is, this is for QuickBooks desktop specifically, or like Pro, Premier, or Enterprise. What will happen is you would have to either close those bills in QuickBooks separately, or delete them and start a new in Bill.com, since that information doesn't transfer to Bill.com. However, for QuickBooks Online, existing bills, unpaid bills actually, will sync from QuickBooks Online to Bill.com, and with any information that it has.
Okay. And then clarity on the international. You are U.S. only, is that correct? Unless the bank, unless there is a physical address in the U.S. and a bank account in the U.S.?
Correct. For example, there was an instance where a client had a Canadian client, but their bank account was in the U.S. As long as the address, like a mailing or vendor, their vendor address is U.S. and the account information is U.S., then you can pay them. Unfortunately, we don't do international payments, so if their addresses are in Canada, or if you try to set them up with e-payments that doesn't have an American routing number and account number, then you cannot.
Okay. All right. Well, we are going to have to wrap up here, and last one I will leave here. David asked about QB Talks, the registration for QB Talks. 2 different ways. The link that we put in that chat window takes you to a page that has like 3 different things: Tech Makeover, QB Talks, and one other thing. Or you can go to insightfulaccountant.com and search QB Talks, and that will take you to the page that has the registration links. And we do that at 1 o'clock and at 6 o'clock. It's the same topic. Both are live, but it's the same topic that's covered at 1 o'clock Eastern and 6 o'clock Eastern, so we can try to serve a broader market. We will close out on that. And again, I did see a couple of people say that they would like to be contacted. One was if it worked in Australia, but doesn't sound like it will. And we will get this information over to Bill.com within the next 24 hours. So you should expect to hear from them within the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you very much, Elizabeth, for that demo. And thank you all very much for attending this web seminar and staying around for the demo. And thanks to Bill.com for their sponsorship. Hope you all have a great week, and we will talk very soon. Thank you.